So first off, like, tell me about you and like your background.
Yeah. So should I introduce myself and say hi? I'm Brian and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, do it. Let's do it.
I'm Brian Gladstein. I run the marketing team at a company called Align, and we do cybersecurity certifications and assurance and compliance. So I come from cyber. I've been in cyber for a long time, mostly in the software side. And I started out my marketing career as a product marketer. So I'm very much a product guy and a marketer, and I become a cyber guy. In fact, when I graduated college, I had my degree in computer science. So I really I coded for 4 years and really liked talking to customers. And that's kind of what led me to product marketing, because it was kind of that fit between, being somebody who really had a vision and ideas about the product, but also like, how do you meet customers' needs? So
Mhm.
anyway, through my career, a lot of product marketing, all sorts of different places, a lot of cyber companies. Ended up here about almost a year ago, 10 months ago. And we've got a great team, 12, 13 people. Every SaaS company out there needs a SOC 2 report these days, and that's what we do. That's our business.
That's awesome. What keeps you in cyber?
It's funny, like obviously it's a great space and there's longevity to the space. So
Yeah.
so I could say that's part of it. But I think even bigger, um, I kind of feel like I'm one of the good guys and that what I'm doing has a purpose. And I've talked to a lot of cyber, like threat hunters and people that worked for the military and the CIA and the NSA, and like people are in it to kind of beat the bad guys. And as a marketer, we want to be competitive. When you're competitive in the cyberspace, like the customer base will say, "Hold on, like don't fight with them because they're also our vendor. The real enemy is over there in one of those countries." And there's just something about that it's like, I'm doing something meaningful, and I like that.
That's awesome. I don't want to plug our survey because it's not done yet. And we haven't released it yet, but we did a big survey of cybersecurity marketers like very recently. You might have been one of the people who responded.
I think so.
And it turns out that like being a good guy and the mission is like the number one driver of people working in cyber, at least as far as they reply on a survey. We did put that like that other option of it pays really well and it's a good job. But people chose that, the mission and being on the side of right and protecting and helping critical infrastructure is like one of the main motivators. So
I've been in other areas like data storage and all that stuff, and
yeah.
like there's money in that too. But at the end of the day, it's data storage, and nothing against people who are listening and they're in data storage, but I find a sense of purpose is fulfilling.
That's awesome. Okay, so all right, first product marketing related question. And this is going to be relevant to everybody right now who's hiring. How, like, what, when you are hiring a product marketer, say you have someone in the seat, in front of you or virtually or whatever, like, what are questions you ask during the interview process? Like, how do you evaluate a product marketer? And you have a really good experience because you're a product marketer yourself. So tell us from the mind of a product marketer how you would evaluate someone else.
Well, when I think it starts with, what do you ask your product marketer to do? Like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
job? And it's funny because when I got to the company that I'm out now, like we have somebody in product marketing, but as a company, the company didn't really understand product marketing, and the person who's in that role, still in that role and doing a fantastic job, but like it was almost a different job before I started, because there wasn't a really good definition of what product marketing is for, like what it does. It wasn't a good understanding. The way I always think about it, and the way I always, the starting point in the interview process is, a product marketer is there to make the product sell itself to the ideal customer, right? So, there's all the stuff you do to sell your company and sales process and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, a product marketer who does a good job is one who can make that product shine on its own by understanding the pain points that the customer is facing and how that product uniquely addresses those pain points. So with that framing, I try and, ask questions around, like, do you have passion for the customer? Do you have passion for a product? And do you kind of love that intersection of where a product, you can build something, create something that's actually going to solve that customer's need, and the customer is going to be able to understand it right away.
Hmm. What are what are some other things you ask to evaluate this? Because a lot of people can just sort of like talk. You know what I mean? Like I love the customer pain point. I love like talking to the customer and everything. Like what sort of other questions you get to dig a little bit deeper?
Sure. So if I'm in a product marketing interview, what I'm really trying to understand is, how do they understand the customer and what really motivates them? And, have they been able to demonstrate that, right? So that's part of it. And so I'll ask questions such as, tell me about a time where you really didn't understand the customer. How did you get to understand them? What did you do? And what I'm looking for is I talked to customers. Like I actually sat down and talked to them and did some analysis and walked away. Here's the common themes that I heard. And you'll hear lots of people don't do that. They'll hear from their sales team, or they'll read online, or they'll sit in their quote unquote ivory tower. Um, so asking questions to kind of root out how did you understand the customer, and really like what is your ability to have an intelligent conversation with a customer and get to a pain point. So then that brings up questions like, tell us about a time when you talked to two customers and they really seem to disagree on something. How did you make a decision uh, based on two conflicting, data points or stories that you were hearing? Or how did you hear one story from customers, you hear another story from salespeople. How do you separate that? So, that analytic mind that's really going to the heart of the customer, that's the line of questioning.
Oh,
Um,
that's so interesting because it could be that you have the conflicting customers, like, oh, 50% of our customers say this, 50% say that. And then being able to hear that out. And in the future, I'm gonna invite you on our podcast and then you can talk about like the answer to that. Cause I'm just like, I want to know. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
What else would you ask?
Well, another one is like the thing about product marketing is you're doing big things, and most of the time you have no staff. So you have to lead by consensus, and so that's a whole other area. Is okay. Let's say you learn that salespeople can be stubborn, right? They do what's always worked, but part of your job is to help them understand the customer to sell better.
Mhm.
And how do you communicate then these findings to a sales team, and even one that might be resistant to these ideas? How do you persuade them? How do you get buy-in across sales and other marketing channels and your product team? How do you rationalize between, hey, the product is supposed to do X, the salespeople don't believe it, but we know it's a differentiator. How do you pull those pieces together? So I think lines of questioning around aligning other teams and getting them all on the same page are really, really important.
Do you ever ask about like frameworks?
I don't think I ever ask about frameworks. Like,
Okay.
so what kind of frameworks are you thinking about?
Just frameworks, which is like
So
not just like
yeah,
a
like
word.
I mean, I'm always listening for things like, oh, I use personas, and here's how I use them,
Mhm.
or I follow lean startup advice or customer development. I like listening to that, but I'm never a believer, and you should just follow the framework blindly. Every case is different. So what I'm more interested, if they say something like that, I want to know, oh, what parts of it did you use, and how did you use it? And kind of what I'm looking for, it goes back to some of those first questions. How do you take a framework and adapt it to your unique product needs or your unique customer needs? I think product marketers need to be able to adapt. Every time they walk into something, it's going to be different. And so you want to know how they adapt.
So when you had said earlier, a lot of companies don't actually understand the product marketing function,
Mhm.
that's going to make it difficult to attract a product marketer because these companies will create a job description based off of Frankenstein of other job descriptions for product marketers that they have seen. So I have a two-part question here. What is the misconception that companies have around product marketing? And then two, how do you attract a good product marketer? Like, what do you say to convince a product marketer to join your team? Like, how do you sell to them?
All right. Great questions. Hopefully I can remember both of them.
I have them written down. So,
So common misconceptions of product marketing. Um, I think uh, the most common misconception is a product marketer is there to write a white paper or to write, and um, and there's kind of an idea that, oh, we just need somebody who's going to write the collateral, write the white paper. The product team knows how it works. The sales team knows how to sell it. We just need a couple assets that the sales team can put out there. And I think it's greatly underestimating a lot of different functions when you do that, but particularly product marketing. It's, you know, being able to write something compelling. It doesn't mean you just talk about what your product does. You have to map it to some needs. And the needs that will catch somebody's eye on a website are different than what might come up in a conversation with a sales rep. So I think it takes a very good understanding of that buyer's journey and what that content is, where to create the right piece of material that's going to work in the right way. And a lot of times it's not a white paper. I mean, who reads white papers, right? There's a lot of other things, a lot of other ways of communicating that work far better. But I think people tend to look at product marketers sometimes as writers, and and there's a lot of product marketers out there who are writers, and that's really what they do, and they don't understand kind of the bigger picture, which makes it hard to get a good person to.
I'm gonna interrupt you from answering the how to attract question, because what you just said leads me down. What skills do you look for in a product marketer? If you were looking at sort of like hard skills, so you were like interviewing them, do they need to know anything else? They don't need to know like Canva, right? But like, what is there any other skills or any other like proof point things that you look for?
I mean, the biggest thing is analytic thinking,
Yeah.
like, and almost like problem solving. And I guess layered on top of that, like I was saying earlier, is communication. They got to know how to communicate with people, reach out with people, like get consensus, and to lead even when they don't have any direct people. So that means, yeah, like I don't care about Canva or about Google Analytics, but like somebody who's intelligent enough to say, hey, you know what, I have the capacity to go learn Google Analytics if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, if that's where the job leads me, I have the interest to go do that too. Those are the kinds of things that make a really good product marketer. You don't always know where you're going to be needed, but you know the buyer's journey. You understand where the inflection points in that journey are, where you can make a difference. And a good product marketer will develop the tools to understand it and to make a difference there.
Awesome. All right, so now back to that other question, which I did write down. Okay, so all right, so currently now, and to date this video, it is, July 2021. Currently, right now, there is an incredible shortage of talent, or at least, cybersecurity marketing talent. And it's very difficult to attract a product marketer to your company because everybody is looking for a product marketer in cybersecurity. And typically, companies kind of look for people who have experience in cybersecurity to join their company if they are a cybersecurity company. Faster time to value, people get onboarded quicker, they can understand you know that they're going to understand the product, etc. So how would a company, like, what are some things that motivate product marketers to join a company?
I'll throw in another challenge before I kind of
Oh.
talk about them. The other challenge is, product marketing very often is an individual contributor job for a long time. And so when you find let's call them a, a, a slightly more experienced junior or a mid-level candidate, one that they know the job, and they're thinking, my next job, I'm going to manage a team. And the truth is they could have another 5 or 10 years of career before things work out such that they're at a company where they can manage a team. In
Mm-hmm.
larger teams, you see teams of product managers or product marketers, but a lot of times, it takes a while to get to a point in your career where you're at that company. And I know I struggled with that. Like I wanted to manage a team so badly when I was like
Yeah.
really young, and it took me a long time before I was managing a product marketing team. So that makes another challenge. Is like good product marketers are smart and capable and could manage a team, and sometimes they have to wait in line, or just be in the right place at the right time. But if the question is how do you track them, look, I think good. Now I look for a certain type of product marketer. In fact, I look for a certain type of marketer. Um, and there's, I would say, two things that when I talk about why somebody should work for me. So if you're a product marketer listening to this and you want a great company to work for, get in touch with me. And this is what I'll tell you. First, I'll tell you. First, I'll tell you we're growing. Like product managers want to grow. They want to grow in their career. They want to be at companies that can grow. So um, we have a, whether you're growing or you have a strategy to grow or you have a thesis to grow, like we're growing and you're going to have an impact on that growth, right? And product marketers want to make an impact. And I don't have the answers and this may not work. And here's all the reasons why this is a dumb idea. Like we could get crushed because of this disruption. We could, we could have this problem. We could have that problem. Right now, we don't have those problems, but I need somebody who's willing to face the challenges that we think are coming and to solve them. And if we do, we're going to be here. And I think, and it's funny because earlier in my career, when I was first hiring, I didn't have that approach. I was looking for people and saying like, hopefully we'll be able to do. I'll make it sound very weak when I talk about it that way, but it kind of was that weak. When I started telling people it's not, when I started telling people the job is going to be hard, I started getting really good people because good product marketers want to solve a hard challenge, and that and you get immediate buy-in. You get people who are like up for the challenge of doing it. So that was kind of my one thing, is to look for people where you can tell them, here's why the job is going to be next to impossible, but if you're in it, I will support you 100%. And if they're in it, you've got a great team member. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing that I say is you may not be able to grow with this job. I may not be able to like build a team under you in 3 years. However, 2 or 3 years from now, 3 years from now, at that point, you should have an amazing resume. And my commitment to you is that it might not be this job, it might be the next job when you're going on to something bigger and there is that management opportunity. But over the next 3 years, you tell me what your resume is, what you want it to look like, and I will commit to you as a manager to help you get there. So whether it's at this company or at the next company, your resume is something that you're super proud of, and you can say, look, I did that. Those are specific metrics I influenced or I built. That's something that I did, and that's going to resonate with anybody that you go to next.
That's amazing. So I think if it was kind of boiled down, it'd be kind of like resources support and something like a real way to make an impact, right? Like, hey, this will be hard. This is going to be tough. I'm not going to cry about it when I sell it to you because that'd be weird and you wouldn't want to join. But like, I'm just saying, this is a challenge. It might not work, but we're going to try really hard to do it. And I think quintessentially, that's like the startup person too, who's really interested. So you're kind of maybe looking for like the startup product marketer to join. Someone who's a little
that can be a startup product marketer, but that can be a product marketer at a larger company too, because there's a good product marketer wants to make an impact, and and that impact might be directly on the business, it might be on changing a business, and it could be on winding a business down. Whatever the impact is, they're a good product marketer will say that's a challenge, and that's the challenge I'm ready for.
That's awesome. That's great. Anything else we should know about product marketing, like hiring and retaining, or anything else like?
So the one other thing. So I was previously at a company called Carbon Black, and I had a team of product marketers. And at one point, I think I had maybe 6 people on my team. Only one of them, maybe 2, had ever been in product marketing before. Ooh. So I had a technical. Let's see. He was a sales engineer. Actually, he came from kind of the tech world. He went into sales engineering, and we grabbed him out of sales engineering to do technical marketing. Which became product marketing. I had a competitive analyst. I had somebody who had been in content marketing. Product marketers, can come from different places, and so I think that's my final piece of advice is, when you're looking for a good product marketer, don't just look for somebody who's done product marketing. You might find exactly the right person you need, in a different realm, and that person could be amazing. And we had an amazing, that was, I called them my dream team. They were an amazing team, and only a handful of them, a couple of them had ever done product marketing before.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Looking not exactly unconventional because you are pulling from like the SC at the company and or SEs and marketing, but look in these unconventional places and you can find amazing people and who are
For
like as long as they're curious and diligent and smart and analytical, like you
and,
said.
and they love the product. Somebody who
Yeah.
loves the product and wants to see the, like, that's the foundation for a great product marketer.
Awesome. Well, if this was a live webinar, this would be where I'd say, do we have any Q&A from the audience? But we don't. So thank you so much, Brian, for speaking with me. Hang on after I stop the recording. Thank you so much for speaking with us at the Cybersecurity Marketing Society and spreading your insights and sharing your wisdom about hiring product marketers. It's like absolutely vital right now at this time for a lot of companies to hear this. So really appreciate it. And we're going to have you back on if you're open to it on some other stuff to talk more about product marketing. I think that'd be
I
really
would love
fun.
that. Sounds
Okay,
great. Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm going to stop the recording.